Nick McDaniel. He's Myron Fancher. How the heck are you, buddy?
I'm sore, Nick, from laying all those bricks. Sore. Oh, God, my arms hurt and hands hurt. I did find another John Cena medal. See how it spins around. While I was looking around trying to get everything cleaned up for the bricks. So I'll hold this medal. I'm gonna wear this through WrestleMania. I'm not gonna take it off. Hopefully,
No.
hopefully this is a change.
Well, there's time. It's it's his time is now. That is for sure, man. But hey, listen, we're kind of excited. We're starting a new format today. I teased it a little bit on social media. We call I actually put up the little thumbnails, the real wrestling. Maybe that's what we end up calling it. We'll see. It sounded good on paper, on theory, anyway.
Oh, it
We're
was
gonna do
fun. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's a totally listen. I always tease like the best ideas are stolen, borrowed, call them whatever you want to. And I'm a massive fan of the Rewatchables. It's a Bill Simmons podcast on the Ringerverse podcast network where they basically go through and do a review type show of movies. And I really like the concept. I'm a big fan of it. So,
When you gonna steal me some of those headphones you got there?
look, we'll get there, man. They're the new like me cozy fit G1s. Check the show notes, and so because you are listeners of the Tapped Out Podcast Network, you will be able to. There's if you go to their website, the links in the show notes. Tapped Out Pods, the promo code, get you 10% off of the website, or go to Amazon, pick you up a pair too. I think that coupon's already gone, so I would actually kind of recommend going to the website and using the promo code Tapped Out Pod to pick out your couple. But yeah, I'm really enjoying them. Beats the big old headphones over the ears while we're recording the show. So, but hey, before we get started, a couple things. We want to remind everybody, if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, tappedoutpod.com, remember, man, at patreon.com/tappedoutpod, you get the shows early. You get the bonus content like all of the articles where we're getting reviews written for all of the weekly TV shows, PLEs, pay-per-views. A couple articles went out this past week as well that were only behind the paywall. Look, at the dollar level, you get the show notes, and we tease it all the time. On the Tapped In show and the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight show, 17 pages of notes this week. There's absolutely no way we covered everything 100%. So being a member there, even at that dollar level, gets you the notes. You can kind of see what was all submitted and written and turned in and all that good stuff. But there's an absolute value there, even at $1, to see all of those show notes that are there. Lots of other things, but we appreciate even the free members because that's the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight, only there. That is the only place that show is. So absolutely, patreon.com/tappedoutpod is where you want to go for all things Tapped Out Podcast Network. Before we dive into the new special, I wanted to ask you a couple questions. First and foremost, we'll promise you we'll get to it real quick, guys. But Hall of Fame last night, they announced that essentially the Hall of Fame is going to not be after SmackDown like it typically was. It's going to be now. Listen, I'm a fan. I'm already going to hit I'm giving it a thumbs up before we start. But it's actually going to take place in the Blue Live Theater inside the Fontainebleau Las Vegas Hotel in Las Vegas.
Too much
Obviously
French,
that.
right?
Yeah, too much something. But it looks like they're going to go away from the post SmackDown thing and go back to, hopefully, it looks a little more like it used to, kind of a little more dressy, a little more, more presented like a prestigious thing, like back in the day. So I'm hoping that's what we end up with. But before we got started, I was going to ask you your thoughts on it.
Mixed thoughts on this, Nick. It cuts the average fan out of the experience. It takes it away. It's another thing you have to pay for to go to WrestleMania, but you can't go to both. So you'd have to leave SmackDown before the main event of the SmackDown before Mania to get over there and see it. It's another expense. Are you gonna? I don't see this. It's not for me. But it may will make it more prestigious. I think it will make it look better. If you're recording this for television or for the network or Netflix or something, where is it going to be broadcast? Are they got a different broadcast contract for it? I'll have to see it and find out.
I think you're going to have to choose. It's not an added expense. I think you're just going to have to choose because you're not going to SmackDown and going to the Hall of Fame ceremony. I don't know that that's a bad thing because after sitting through 2 hours or more of SmackDown, a lot of times people are just tired and exhausted. They've cheered themselves out, which is not necessarily a bad thing when it comes to the thing. I just like that. I think it's just going to make it look more important. Yeah. Standing in the ring with the ropes off and you can see people sitting, and I never really enjoyed that look. And I don't know that. Look, from a business perspective, it makes total sense because it's another revenue source.
Well, that and it's Triple H's induction, so it's gonna look good. I mean, if I was the boss, I'd make mine look good too. So. But if they get a deal with the Fontainebleau Hotel, man, if they get one of those deals like WrestleCade does, where you get you get this and this and that, because the hotel and the business and the arena's all
well, they've already cut it. It's the official hotel of WrestleMania. They've got blocks of rooms where they're giving out discounts if there were WrestleMania attendees. So they kind of do have a partnership of some kind with the WWE. I just like it from the sheer fact of I think it's going to look better. I just felt bad all those times for guys up there in suits with no disrespect, but with some yahoos behind them, acting crazy on TV. Where now they can shoot it from the front. There's going to be a stage. You don't have they can. It looks like a real Hall of Fame ceremony.
What does green shirt guy do? That'll be the final arbiter of what the real people will do.
I don't know that he ever went to I don't remember. I mean, I've never looked for him at a Hall of Fame ceremony. I don't even know that he was ever there. I mean, obviously the ones that ended up at post SmackDown and stuff, yeah. But otherwise, I don't know he was there pre them, doing it after SmackDown. So he may not have even been there. I don't know. I've never looked and seen, but so I'm a fan of it, honestly. At the core, I just think it's going to look more prestigious, and I hope they stick to it going forward. And to be honest with you, look, it's not as bad because it's the time that it'll be because of the whole East Coast, West Coast time differential. But when they're back on the West Coast, I wouldn't be stunned if this thing aired simultaneously. What if they did them both at 8 o'clock? Hey, you just got to choose. Because I do like the fact that people aren't going to be forced to hurry their speeches because hey, look, we've already had people here, so we got to hurry. I actually liked them. I always felt like they should give them a little more time for this moment. You shouldn't be rushing them for a Hall of Fame speech, but that's just my take. So,
well, it'll be interesting to see how it works out.
Yep. The other kind of controversy that's been going around, a lot of people, we saw Cody walk out on Raw last night.
Ooh.
With a black eye. Looks kind of ugly.
It's a good one. It's a good one. It's like a car crash.
Yeah, all the stories seem to be, and look, there's conflicting reports out there, so we'll give you all the perspective. And when John Cena turned and The Rock and Travis Scott put the beat down on him, apparently there's video out here. It looks like Travis Scott pretty much gives Cody the just boop, right in the eye, and there was rumor of he maybe popped his eardrum or something like that when he was punching on him. And look, Bully Ray and Stevie Richards both have taken really stances on it that he's got a receipt coming. That's at the core of it. He's got a receipt coming.
I normally agree with everything Bully Ray says, but giving a firm statement on this is so far outside my pay grade. I can just give you my opinion. I know why he was there. It's an audience thing. That drew a huger audience to something that was already going to draw a huge audience, and I love that. Did he get carried away? I don't know. It looked like it was worked in there, and it looked like it was what they intended to do. And people are still talking about it. And he still got the black eye. And it's still drawing attention. And maybe Travis Scott does have a receipt coming. I don't know, but it's still drawing attention to a product that's hot as hell. Now, if this was a thing with AEW, what would we be saying about this? If they were neck and neck with AEW, what would you be saying about this? I can't. Would this be something we'd write off as, oh, this is just Tony Khan? Oh, he's a damn idiot. I don't get it, guy. My opinion is just this. It worked. Is Cody a good soldier? Yes, Cody's a good soldier. Does this fall, Nick? Does this fall in his job description as a good soldier?
No, I think he's probably. It's funny because Bully had the stance of, the receipts, and he was irresponsible, and he, blah blah blah, all that stuff with Travis Scott. Bischoff's take was he would be thanking Travis Scott, because his take was, how many people have seen this clip on social media? How many people are talking about it? The publicity that it's gotten is over the top. This will take, and Eric's stance is, this will take Cody from top tier WWE World Champion to, he will slip into the pop culture community, and before you know it, would not be stunned if he's in more movies. Like, he's done some stuff on TV or whatever, but like, this becomes his launching point to maybe getting into movies and stuff down the road, because everybody, like, I don't know if you're aware how popular Travis Scott is. He's popular. He's done some stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how popular Travis Scott is. I recognize his name as a 52-year-old white man in Georgia who just watches wrestling and hangs out in his basement. So if I recognized him, he's got to be popular. And maybe he'll get a receipt, and that'll be a whole new storyline, and that'll draw eyes. So let it
just
play
kind
out.
of give you an idea, Myron. Travis Scott has 58.8 million followers on Instagram.
I'm at like 500 on Instagram.
So I'm just saying he's popular.
I deleted a lot of people on Instagram because my Instagram feed was kind of squirrely. So I look a lot better now.
So I think Cody's fine. Even if it did happen, I think you understand the risk when you involve somebody that's not a wrestler in a storyline, that stuff can go wrong. And, and here's the thing. You don't want it to look weak. Cody would rather probably have a black eye than he took a shot that looked weak and then had to try to sell it. So it is what it is. Yeah. So we'll see over time. Look, Travis Scott, he's talking about maybe it's time to get some more training because he's thinking about wrestling and stuff. We'll see. Time will tell. So
go see QT Marshall.
Well, he's at the PC. He's going to the PC already. He's got a ring and everything. He's already working. So, the other big news of the week, they teased it. They're talking about next week. They Raw was at Madison Square Garden last night. They announced they're going overseas, and then just magically, like, it pops up in our feed that over the next 3 weeks, Raw's going to be on Netflix at 3 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon. That's Eastern time. We're talking 12, 1 o'clock Pacific time. And I was like, wait, what? Yeah, that's right, folks. Raw will air live as it is happening overseas in Brussels, Glasgow, and London. So those time zones are going to be wacky.
Technology, satellites, all this stuff is going to come together, and we're not going to tape this. These aren't going to be pre-tapes.
Nope.
This is going to be the real thing.
Most people are watching later, like you said, you do as well.
I don't watch anything live anymore because even the commercials I don't have because I have the Netflix without commercials. But I still want to be able to fast forward through stuff that I don't enjoy or stuff that I find boring. It took me an hour and a half to watch a 2.5 hour Raw because I started at 12 o'clock. I give it an extra, 30 minutes after it's ending to make sure everything's settled down. Watched it at 12. I was done by 1:30. That's the benefits for not watching it live. My 3-hour SmackDown probably takes me about 2 hours to watch because I zip through all the commercials and stuff I don't want to watch. I do this with almost every television program that I do watch. I go back and watch something I DVR'd or whatever you call it now. There's not a physical DVR. It's all in the sky or in the computer world somewhere. But it's not going to matter to me because I'm going to sit down Anytime I can start it early in the afternoon and go to bed earlier. And I have to go to bed at 2 o'clock. I can go to bed like at midnight or go to bed at 11 o'clock. But if they're doing this with SmackDown too, explain that this is something what you explained to me earlier that really stuck.
Well, the caveat here that gets a little wacky is because look, Raw is on Netflix everywhere, globally everywhere, so it's not an issue. SmackDown is on Netflix everywhere else in the world other than, the US, North America stuff. That's on USA and in the United States. They have a time slot allotted for it. So it's going to air at 8 p.m. on USA. Everywhere else in the world is going to get SmackDown live on Netflix because that's who has it. So Netflix will be on, or SmackDown will be on at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, respectively, whatever the time is when it airs from overseas as well. The U.S. is going to be the only one who gets it on a tape delay because they're the only ones who have it on USA. So just a totally different concept.
If the VPN gimmick still works, you can watch SmackDown and then go to your SmackDown Live and then go to your local indie show instead of having to go and watch it after your indie show or watch it Saturday morning on DVR. Imagine that. Same day SmackDown and your local indie show without problems. That's a nice idea. So I'm going to look forward to trying that. I'm going to be down there in the basement right here trying to get around it so I can watch SmackDown first and early. It's worth a shot.
Yeah. I mean, that's for when there's a show on Fridays, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right?
There's always there's a show somewhere on Fridays. I'm really wanting to get up to Royston to see what's going on this Friday. But dude, how about the cage hanging from the ceiling last night to start the show in Madison Square Garden? How cool was that?
How cool was it? They teased cage matches all night long, famous cage matches in Madison Square Garden. Cool touch. I mean, look, they're doing some really cool stuff. By the way, I want to add how great use of the drone filming when they were on top of the cage and stuff. Like, hey, there's a reason why you need that drone, right? Because the cameraman can't get up there. So good job by them with that drone. I thought that was a good effort. And look, we don't typically say, hey, well, this happened on Raw, SmackDown, etc. But kudos to the entire match. Punk and Seth Rollins delivered a hell of a cage match. And, of course, the Roman run at the end helping, I guess, quote-unquote, Rollins win, but then putting the beat down across the board. The best Raw episodes end when you start asking your questions like, what's next? What's going to happen in versus statements?
Why did he do that? What's going on? What's going to happen? I don't know. What's all this? Because, you didn't see Roman because they didn't put the camera on Roman until he was pulling Seth out of the cage. Everybody in the arena was yelling and cheering. You're like, why are they yelling and cheering? I don't know why they're yelling and cheering. And then you see Roman. It's like, oh, my God. And then Paul is huddled over CM Punk, and the atmosphere is so perfect. Run-in time. Seth wins because Roman pulls him out of the cage and his feet hit the floor.
Yep.
But he doesn't really win.
So we clearly think we know where this is going with Seth and Roman, but then they throw in the mystery piece of what's the deal with Paul Heyman, CM Punk. That's that look by Roman. There's your big question mark as they go off the air. So kudos to them. They did a great job there. But look, that's everything as far as the hot news for the week. Now we're going to get into real wrestling. Call it whatever you want to as we start. Look, it's a lot of stuff. No holds barred. So I guess best way I see. Look, this film is just crazy. You want the humor of it. There's lots of stuff to talk about. It's legendary. It's influential. It changed pro wrestling. It's the other question I asked somebody is, what if they had Hulk Hogan play Hulk Hogan in a movie? That's right. It's no holds barred, man.
Before we start, guess where I found this movie, folks?
Where'd you find it?
Tubi.
Told you.
Where they have Evolve now. And Evolve. On Tubi. Now, Nick is the big Tubi man. Tubi's free. Got my Tubi account. Everything's cool. Sat down and watched it commercial free. Hour and 33 minutes. If Suburban Commando comes up on this list, I don't know if I can commit Japanese harikiri, being as fat as I am. I might need an extra long knife, but this was horrible, Nick.
Listen, it's so bad it's good, and that's the
No,
thing. That's my thing about what I always tell people. Sometimes rewatchable movies are simply that they are just so bad that it's good. I mean, like you have things like first of all, Rip. I mean, literally, like that's the wrestler Rip. I'm like Rip Thomas. Why didn't they just call him Hulk Hogan for that matter? I mean,
I
that
didn't understand that part. I didn't understand that part. I didn't understand why he wasn't wrestling somebody famous. I didn't understand why they didn't already use more WWE wrestling, unless they were trying to like protect gimmicks. You know,
yeah. Well, I mean, look in hindsight, look Zeus. Being involved, that did lead to stuff, and we're going to get to some of that later. Just before we start, give me your general takeaway from the movie. Let's start there.
my main takeaway from the movie is nostalgia. Is a lot of the things we watched when we were kids we thought were cool. We looked at them through those eyes, and as we've grown older, we still look at them through these eyes. And the best thing to prevent us from losing that sense of nostalgia is not watching these things again. I had never seen this movie until last night. I'm looking at it through the eyes of someone in 2025, watching it on a computer. Not Myron, who would have had to rent this on VHS tape. And what year was this now? 1988, 89, when I was a freshman in high school, and would have been super, super happy to have been able to get this on VHS in the big box case. And I would have thought this movie was incredible. And I saw Joan Severance in her bra. And I would have been like, oh.
There's lots of discussion coming about her.
But yes. But the thing was, Myron at that age, and I would have told you right now had I watched it then, and we'd be talking about it now. This was a great movie. But that's nostalgia. I don't have nostalgia, and I don't have those rose-colored glasses on of nostalgia. I have my dookie colored glasses now after watching this. And I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you. I didn't like this.
Listen. I'm a big, and again, it's probably you might be right. It might be because I watched it back in the heyday. I mean, I would have been, trying to think, 16,
15 or 16, yeah.
15, yeah, I'd have been 15 because my birthday's at the end of the year, so I'd have been 15. So we probably had somebody, one of our friends that was 16, drive us to the movie store to rent it. And we, sat because I'm trying to remember. You know what? I think I saw this in the theater. Now that I think about it, I think I did see it in the theater. It took me a minute because I've been thinking about it. I'm like, I think I did go see it. I'm trying to remember who all went and saw it with me, but we did see it at the theater.
See, to get to a theater where I lived would have been like a 30-minute drive, and I'd have had somebody that wanted to take me, and there wasn't anybody who wanted to take me. And also, at the time, I didn't have a girlfriend, and she didn't want to go anywhere. The non-existent girlfriend wouldn't go anywhere with me, so I didn't have a reason to go to movie theaters. So I saw everything on VHS once it came out later.
Yeah, I mean, I get, by that age, we had the Gwinnett was the closest movie theater, but we were at Gwinnett Place at the time, so we would haul and go down there. But yeah. So anyway, a little bit how this we're going to kind of teach you teach the listeners and the viewers here on YouTube at tappedOutPod.com the kind of the format of how this works. Again, kind of told you I'm outright lifting some of the categories and stuff like that from the Rewatchables episodes. And we're going to go through those and just kind of hit those on a high note, and then we will pick. So, like, for example, Myron, let's start with the obvious first one is the most rewatchable scene. Basically, the definition is, hey, it's the scene that no matter when you're, because like I said, I flip on Tubi, flip on Pluto, flip on whatever, or you're flipping through the cable and the movie's on and you catch it. What scene is it that you're like, oh, I got to see this. They're about to do this.
I
So,
see.
like, for example, yeah. So, for my first nomination is Rip versus the Jobber. Basically, the opening scene. Movie kicks off. Rip's dominate. He's in the ring. He's kicking some butt, but it's a nobody. It's a jobber. The crowd's going bananas. He's in there posing. He's being Hulk Hogan. Let's call it what it is. He's Hulk
Yeah,
Hogan.
and he hulked up. He did the whole thing.
Yep.
The evil TV producer's watching. Why is it? And then all of a sudden, Hulk, and he's like, he realizes why they're beating him on all the ratings because it's this amazing Hulk Hogan, Rip, whatever name character, and it's awesome. And he's selling merch, and people love him. And he doesn't have that. He doesn't have a product like that.
Right. It's the first taste. Look, trust me, Brill's got a lot of talking points for this episode. And this is kind of the first time that we see him and his hatred for Rip and just kind of just how wild and out there he is. Look, this is a hard one to beat. The next one, it is what it is. Look, it's as childish as we are. We're 7 years old. So you knew we were going to bring this up. Rip's fighting off basically a whole limo full of thugs. He makes it clear that he's just super strong. He's proven his point. But the key point of this whole scene, and everybody's going to laugh. If you've seen the movie, you already know where we're going. The limo driver, he's hiding. Hogan grabs him. Rip picks him up. Let's say Hogan, Rip, whatever. And then literally you can he's like, what's that smell? The driver's shaking, he's sweating, and he stammers. And what does he say, Myron?
But the problem is, the problem that bothered me that much is his entire backside, as you see it, the back of his trousers is soaking wet. And that's got to be pee, too. So there's pee, and then he says dookie, and it's like John Laurinaitis was there.
He doesn't say dookie, he goes, dookie. It's literally like a stammering out there. I mean, it has become literally, if you mention no holds barred, most people react that line. That's what they remember from this movie, literally.
That's the most memorable part. And it was a horrible, horrible thing.
I agree. I get it. Now listen, we clearly kind of at this point.
It really, really explains a lot of Vince McMahon problems later in life.
It does, and we're going to get into why Vince is such a key character in this whole movie with one of the categories later on. So, look, we kind of got a vibe. We know where the winner's going to be, but we still got to throw a couple nominations in there. The warehouse fight tryout with Zeus. Basically, he's just in there just demolishing everybody.
That was cool.
That
was cool.
Yeah, he basically kills a guy. Right.
You set your heel up real well. Now that was done right.
Yeah. And then, of course, last but not least, the big fight, the final fight. The question, of course, is Rip Thomas, Zeus fighting off. Myron, is it a wrestling match? Is it a street fight? Nobody knows. What the hell are we doing?
Is it TNA? Why is there a hole in the ring?
I don't know.
Who did they rent that ring from?
There's lots of questions. I mean,
ring? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, Zeus no sells everything until the very end. It's all right. They flip the switch, and then all of a sudden he's, whatever.
Yeah, do that Hulk up. Man. Hulk up was the biggest thing in wrestling when I was that age. Whenever he hit that Hulk up, that was amazing. You knew it was over then. The bad guy would just beat Hogan down, and you see, I can't do it. I'm a horrible actor.
He looks like he was basically, like you said, it looked like he was being electrocuted because he was just shaking so hard or whatever. And we knew as wrestling fans, oh, it's over now.
Yes.
The second he starts hulking up, it's over. Of course, at the very end, I got to ask you a question. Brill gets launched into the TV screen to his death, right?
Hogan's just murdering people, murdering the hell out of people. But he's a good guy.
Nobody misses a beat. Movie just keeps going. Yeah. Nope. He died. Yeah, we're moving on or whatever. Doesn't really matter. Look, that's just a couple scenes that we're choosing from, but obviously, Myron, everybody knows the winner, right? Correct. Absolutely, without a doubt. And look, again, that unfortunately will come up multiple times in the category.
I'm probably going to say it about every 15 seconds, actually.
Yeah. Basically, the Neil McCauley Book of Medals, it's a Heat reference or whatever it is for best line. And I'll probably eventually, I'm going to change these. How about this? We're going to come up with these categories. We're going to change them maybe to wrestling ones. Like it might become, think of historic lines, the Dusty Rhodes best line, or Ric Flair best line, or whatever. Something we'll come up with something like that. But it's the best quote that's either intentionally or unintentionally the line that everybody remembers for the movie. Obviously, we start at number 1. What's that smell? The other one, of course, that's, look, by the way, that's the winner, right?
I mean, it's hard to beat that. The rest of
I agree.
Oh God, the number 2 is the stupidest thing in the entire movie, and that takes jockass. What is jockass?
I have no idea, and apparently,
is that like ringworm? Do you put Blue Star ointment on it? Jockass.
Hey, look, it was Rip's go-to insult, and apparently the stories are that Vince was absolutely like furious that it never caught on. There's some half-ass internet research coming at the end that's just going to blow your mind about this. Rip 'em, of course, and that's the Rip Thomas's thing. He loved yelling that in this movie, did he not? Like it was a constant, like Rip 'em, and I'm like, that's bad. Here's again. This is because it's part of the reasons it's so bad. It's good.
Well, I mean, he was a child. You remember, he was a hero of children. He was a eat your vitamins and say your prayers guy, and then all of a sudden he's saying jockass and rip them and stuff, and he's a violent superhero in more of a grown up geared movie about feces and bar fights.
Yeah,
so he had to tone it up a little bit.
Probably so. I won't be around when the check clears. Okay, that's unnamed, smartest line in the movie, by the way.
That's pretty good.
But unnamed fighter. That's when you find out that Brill's just absolutely an evil dude. But it's the one movie. It's the one moment in the movie somebody makes an actual logical, smart decision in the entire thing. By the way, but of course the winner is. Yeah, unfortunately, that is still our winner. What's aged the best? Basically, it's the things that, like, if they still hold up to today. Number 1, Zeus's look.
Yeah. I mean, that look was so good. That was an eye problem he was born with, and that drooping eye basically got him most of his work his entire life. That's the fact he was a giant. Played in the USFL for a minute. Shot putter in college. Just a giant, massive human being. The entire movie Friday was based on people being scared of him. This movie could not have picked a better villain.
Oh yeah, like that's the thing. Like even today, if you cast him as the villain of a movie, and like not this movie, but if you remade this movie,
he's dead.
No, but I'm saying if you cast him today and he was still, I'm saying if you put this guy in this movie, you'd still buy it. Like that's what I meant. So like, it still holds up for sure. Kurt Fuller, the actor who plays Brill, absolutely is just a lunatic. And by the way,
he looks like a villain in some kind of like one of those Santa Claus movies.
Constantly screaming, constantly angry. But here's the kicker, Myron. This is why Nick says it holds up. He's Vince McMahon. That's essentially.
Did Vince make this character on himself, trying to make this character Ted Turner? Is that what you think? I mean, because why would Vince make somebody like this so much like him and also so despicable? And because he's the bad guy. He's the real final boss.
Yeah. Funny you should ask. There is a little bit to that later. To answer that question will be answered later in the show. The WWF tie-in. Basically, think about this. They literally took this character. They took the Zeus character, made it a wrestling feud. By the way, it holds up because I don't think you could pull it off today. But they literally built SummerSlam '89 around a match with these two. It was like the rematch. The return. I'm like,
I remember that.
Yeah,
that was awesome. And then he went around and became what, Z something. He wasn't Z Man. He was on WCW. This guy made a wrestling career out of basically this movie.
Yeah. And so, I mean, tying in that to me ages very well. Tying a movie into a wrestling story. Like, think about how hard that would be today.
I'd love to see. Well, things are so different today. I mean, it'd be like The Rock walking off the set of Scorpion King wearing Scorpion King stuff to the ring at a show. Or, by
the way, that might be one then for the future. Scorpion King would be a good one.
I could deal with that. I could deal with that.
Last but not least, and I know, hear me out. There's a thought process to this. I'm not saying good or bad. My point is Hogan's star power. It still does hold up. And what I mean by that is, by the way, not a great actor. We're not saying he's a great actor, but he stands out in the movie. He absolutely is a star, commands attention in the movie. Now, granted, it's because he's screaming a lot, but that's neither here nor there.
He was covered with like shiny baby oil. I mean, more baby oil than in Puff Daddy's basement. I mean, he was a shiny man all through. Even laying down in bed, they had him shiny.
Yeah. Oh, we're coming to that. That whole scene's coming later. I promise you.
That made me uncomfortable.
Yes, very. So, what age the best, Myron? What's your pick out of?
Age the worst or the best?
Best. Is it the age the best? Zeus's look, Kurt Fuller's Brill, the WWF tie-in, or Hogan's star power? That's the best.
Zeus.
The look of Zeus.
Yeah.
Good call. What age the worst?
So
the idea that wrestling is that it's real in a movie.
Now, were they wrestling or fighting though?
That's kind of my point. Like, the movie treats it like it's real, like it's a combat sport. But by 89, we're kind of like already like, okay, that's not really a thing.
Hogan was wrestling when the movie starts. And they're acting like wrestling is the all-time ratings topper for networks. And maybe, hell if I know. It's not right now, but it's doing pretty good. But this guy wanted this so he could beat the ratings. This is what he wanted. So instead of going to wrestling, he goes to this bar and they decide to have a tough man, because tough man competitions were the rage. Remember those? Were tough. They had tough man competitions at local bars all over the place. Yeah, this probably was the inspiration for it. And that part didn't bother me as much. I mean, that the wrestling is real. A wrestler that translates into a fighter, that's not that unplausible. The rest of the stuff, though, is where it starts getting sketch and like dated worse than Joan Severance's lingerie.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really, like I said, the whole concept of it. The other one that aged the worst, Myron, would you ask Rip Thomas? Why is he not just Hulk Hogan?
Yes. I mean, I saw Mad Dog Vachon. I saw, oh God, I lost my brain here.
Oh, Stan Hansen's in the movie.
Hansen. Yes, Stan Hansen was a big character. I didn't see like any mainline characters. Now, I don't know if they didn't want to. I mean, why was Jake the Snake not in this movie?
No. My question is, why call him Rip Thomas?
Exactly. Why was he Rip Thomas, but Zeus was still Zeus when Zeus came to the WWF? Why didn't he get a name change to come back out of the thing? Because, fantasy, reality and fantasy, it's all mixed up together in kayfabe. But Hogan not getting to be called Hulk Hogan, Nick?
Right. Like, I get it. Did it have to do with, trademark stuff, or maybe, I don't know, they didn't want, I don't know, but my answer is,
want to spoil the gimmick. Like I said, eat your vitamins, say your prayers.
Could be
little
true.
Hulkamaniacs. But
then he behaved basically like Hulk Hogan for the whole movie. So that was what the weird part was. I don't know. you brought her up earlier. What else aged the worst? The romance subplot. Joan Severinsen is literally in this movie for what? She's just there. And there's a lot of movies out there where we talk about like the lack of chemistry with like the love interest and the star or whatever, and I'm like, there's none. Like you again, bad acting, call it whatever you want to. There's obviously zero. I don't want to say zero attraction, but there was zero chemistry with those two. You could tell there's nothing. Like, it's acting. There's no like I believe this could be a couple. It is very, very bad.
And it's like worse than the stuff my grandmother watched on Guiding Light. Bad. This woman.
I loved Guiding Light. Sorry.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have another thing we don't agree on. You liked the Guiding Light. I didn't like the Guiding Light. But
were you more like a Young and the Restless guy or something?
No, I didn't like that shit either. Okay, I wanted to watch what I wanted to watch. Anytime you took me, this is my life story. Anytime you took the knob or the remote control away from Myron, I get angry and I don't like your show. Even when I was a small child, I couldn't do anything about it because I get slapped across the room. Okay, but this is my house now, and then I had to watch this shitty movie. Oh, sorry, but the Zone because remember Joan Severance and these women. We were young men at the time, and she's in lingerie and. It looked like that would have been, and then the next you get this no chemistry thing where they have to be best friends forever or no touchy in the hotel room, and then Hogan is doing. You think he's bouncing the bed, and you think he's pulling little Hogan, he's pulling this little Hulkamaniac, and then she looks around their bridge they built, and it's like, oh, she catches him, hulking up. It turns out he's doing push-ups with his feet on the bed, and he's wearing these tiny little Speedos, and he's covered with oil. And I've never seen Hulk Hogan in this way before. And
yeah,
this is one of those things where yeah, it didn't
is uncomfortable an understatement?
No, I wasn't uncomfortable because I'm secure in my sexuality, but I didn't want to see it. Oh,
it didn't make me uncomfortable that way. I was just kind of like,
I didn't want to see it. I wanted to fast forward through it, but I'm doing this as a job. This is what you wanted to do. I'm studying this. I'm serious about my work here. I studied on it, and I'm watching Hulk Hogan do naked push-ups in front of Joan Severance, and almost skin tone. And I could tell she was aroused, if not me. I wasn't, but she was.
But because of the lack of chemistry, you don't even buy it. So yeah, I mean there's four. What age the worst out of all of those?
The hotel room scene, because there's no way two people would travel on a business trip in 2025 and get in a hotel room, put a blanket up between the two of them, and then she steps out in her, what did they call that slip thing? She had a bra and a slip, and then he strips down to his
Speedo.
Oh, that was less than a Speedo. It was like it was the most revealing men's undergarment I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And oils himself up and starts stretching his little Hogan. And it was so cringeworthy. This is a scene that if you were to show this to people today on Facebook, you'd get canceled. And I hate saying the shit like canceled and all that other stuff, but this is absolute. Just. Yeah.
So I agree. Hotel scene it is. Dion Waiters Award, Best Heat Check. Basically a character who steals the scene. My only caveat is it can't be a star. It's got to be somebody with a smaller part of the movie. Blah, blah, blah. Role. Yeah. I know Brill. I put him in here because he's got this basically every time he's on there, he's turned up to 12.
Yeah.
I know he's in it a lot. He may be in it too much to qualify for the award, but we'll see. Stan Hansen as the henchman.
I love Stan.
he's hot right out of the gate. Boom.
I love
Yeah.
Stan.
And then Charlie Rip's trainer, he just basically, his motivation speeches are so bad. They are so bad.
This is if like someone had combined Chef's dad from South Park and the trainer from Rocky.
Yeah.
And I would have, if he'd have asked Rip for $350 for the Loch Ness Monster, I wouldn't have been surprised. This was just horrible. It's like, I mean, I'm sorry, but they were like, we need a black guy for this movie. What can we do with him? Where can we put one? And they made this guy and he's the least inspirational trainer, or I don't think he trains him at all. But I like Stan Hansen's performance. Really, that's the one I liked. What did you think?
Listen, I'm with you. I think Hansen's probably the guy. I just, like him the best out of all of them, just because he comes in and he's literally like he's going 100 miles an hour right out of the gate.
Yes.
And stuff. So yeah. Who won the movie? Who basically at the end of the movie you can only pick one. Like who is it? Kurt Fuller, Brill, Zeus. I mean, he comes out pretty good. Hogan's ego. I mean, it was one of his first early movies. I mean,
it's still thriving.
I mean, yeah. And then yeah, it's basically the whole movie's about him essentially. Or here's the crazy one: the WWF at the time, the WWF's marketing team, because they literally took this movie and turned it into, like we said, an angle that they ran with.
That was brilliant. That was brilliant. Probably one of the best co-marketing things, co-promotion, whatever you call it, in wrestling history. Maybe in some of the best history ever. I think I want to give it to Zeus though, Nick, because Zeus made an acting career. I mean, he had an acting career started. He was in Beverly Hills Cop 2 before this.
That's why I disagree and go with the other route. I go Hogan because he basically spiraled this into, look, whether I'm not saying any of it's good, but he turned it into TV shows, movies, and acting roles and whatever. So I say that Hogan won the movie because it basically essentially launched out his career, in my opinion, from that point going forward.
Zeus was on an episode of Webster and 2 episodes of Matlock, and had like 400 acting career jobs, and wrestled Abby in Puerto Rico for the Royal Wrestling Council. I think that's really cool stuff. And I can't say, well, there was a mortgage fraud issue, but I don't really, Hogan just keeps acting crazier and claiming he's the greatest star ever. Maybe that would have never happened if it hadn't been for this.
Maybe, but he made a bunch of money in acting. I mean, but it's a lot of it launched out of this career. I'm going to hop over the next award because we're running short on time. So we're going to jump down to the Butch's Girlfriend Award for the weakest link in the film. It's a character or something, that's like basically the worst. That basically, look, I get it. We're saying like this movie's already got a pretty low bar, but who in the movie brings it even down a notch? The candidates are, because I'm going to pick it up a little bit here, is Samantha, Joan Severance, Rip's brother, Randy. So my question, look, honestly, man, is that, I know there's more, but I think I'm going to stick to those two. Who's your choices?
Randy offered nothing to the film except somebody to get beat up. The worst thing ever, when he was paralyzed in the wheelchair, they rolled him out of the elevator, and then Joan Severance is trying to escape an elevator ride later, and he's like, can't turn around. He's like, what's happening? What's happening?
Well, it's a toss-up because the only reason she's in the movie is to be kidnapped later.
But that was all they are bad storyline tools. Okay? All they are like, this is a device to advance to the next part of the story.
Yeah.
And neither one of them have any charisma. I'm sure Joan Severance is a fine actress. I'd have to watch her in something else to tell. And maybe she just did this for Vince, or Vince had done something horrible. Randy, Randy and the trainer guy, they spent too much time together because they were the shits. Randy is.
So you go Rand. You go the
I
brother.
gotta go with Randy.
Okay.
At least At least I enjoyed looking at Joan Severance's giant '80s hair, and it brought me back so many memories.
So I'll go with you. I'll say Randy as well.
Strawberry Field.
Ron Burgundy Flute Award, best time to take a pee break. Basically, it's if there's a moment in the movie that you like, hey, you've got 60, 90 seconds to go to the bathroom, get back, and you have missed nothing whatsoever in the movie. Choices are going to be any scene that involves Samantha and Rip talking to each other. Like when they're trying to actually have like romance, whatever. Randy's hospital scene, basically Rip / Hogan, whatever, stands over here, does this huge monologue for him. Like you think it's going to be this monster thing, but literally it's all for nothing because by the end of the movie, Randy's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like
he said his prayers and took his vitamins. That's usually what happens. I love. You said the Zeus's training montage was bad. I enjoyed it because somebody hung cinder blocks up and he smashed them. That was awesome. I like that part. I don't want to get that part out. Randy was my choice. Now, come on. What else you got? What else you got for me?
The TV network's rating war storyline, Zeus fighting ability. Those are kind of the big. I'm sorry. Back up to the other one. Zeus's montage. The Briel. I love the fact that he went bananas, but that he did it constantly. by the like the 100th time of him doing it, you're kind of like, okay, he's on a rant. I'm gonna go pee together. Me personally. Huh?
That came out.
So I'm gonna go pee while they do while he's losing his mind again. So what's your vote? I'm gonna go with Randy's hospital scene. As bad as I don't like the romantic storyline, I'm still it's kind of the same thing. Yeah. Stephen A. Smith's hottest take award. Look, this one's not really complicated to figure out. Look, you pick one. What's your hottest take out of the movie?
My hottest take out of the movie. I'm trying to look at this, and I've looked. Zeus would have never got Friday. I'm gonna have to come my own take on this one. Zeus would have never gotten Friday if it hadn't have been for this movie. And Friday is the movie he made the most out of it. He collaborated with Ice Cube for all through his career, and I think this movie made him that guy. But that intimidation factor made him that guy. The rest of the stuff, I can't. I mean, what do you think? Come on, fire at me.
I'm going with the one we talked about earlier. We did mention it earlier. The hot take of, Vince McMahon wrote this, that this is Vince McMahon. Like, if Vince was in the movie world and he didn't have this may not even have aged very well at this hot take. If he wasn't restricted by the confine, like if he could be in a movie and kind of get away with anything, this is what, like, he would have been Brill. He would have been just out of his mind crazy. And that's where I say, like, Brill was written based off of Vince McMahon. Like, literally, that's what I think.
That's reasonable. That's very reasonable.
And if you want to know why I think that, I'm going to read off some things. These are some, I did some Google. So half-assed internet research, basically what half-assed internet research is, these are things that may or not be true, but somewhere on the internet it says it. So maybe. So basically, here's the story. It's the infamous rewriting session. Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon were so dissatisfied with the original script that they locked themselves in a hotel room for 72 hours and they wrote this movie. They rewrote this. This is them. Basically, the marathon session is often cited as a testament to their dedication or perhaps their indulgence over that era. Like, literally locked themselves in there for 72 hours.
I can believe that 100%. Yeah. I can believe they wrote this. Every line of it, every loose plot thread, every dangling participle, everything lost in this screams of Vince and Hogan. In one scene, Hogan's character Rip forcefully stuffed a check into the antagonist's mouth, Brill. Allegedly, during the filming, Hogan performed the action with, like, he pushed it so hard, Kurt Fuller began choking
They had to stop. They had to halt production, and because Hogan was unfamiliar with like on-screen, like the nuances of on-screen combat acting, he was reportedly advised to moderate his approach in the future takes because he literally did it too hard.
Mm.
Hogan was working stiff. This is what we translate that into. Zeus portrayed, obviously, transitioned to the silver screen, to the wrestling ring. He capitalized on the film. Went on to the WWF, now WWE, to feud with Hogan. Obviously, that is true because that actually happened. Here's the one I wanted to get to. This was I found was interesting because you brought it up earlier. Some people believe that the character Brill was actually a jab at Ted Turner, the owner of the rival WCW, because of their contentious relationship between McMahon and Turner, that he actually based that character off of him and not himself.
I would say yes to that theory. I would say he tried to write it based on Ted Turner, but he assumed Ted Turner was like him. Like somebody competing against him had to be just like him, because we a lot of times we see our enemies through our own lenses because we don't understand their actions, because we try to put our actions into their hands. We try to explain them through what we understand. So that makes sense to me. Billionaire Ted.
So Joan Severance's casting, I'm going to hop through. This is the reason, by the way, you should be at least $1 member on our Patreon page to catch all of the notes. So the casting of Joan Severance as Samantha was reportedly influenced because she was rising in popularity in the late 80s when obviously this was filmed.
Yeah.
And they felt like adding her would add a touch of mainstream Hollywood to not just be so wrestling centric, that they could actually draw other people in, other like moviegoers in.
I'm hoping this did not ruin her career. This had to have been like, if this would have been on USA Up All Night with Rhonda Shear, or one of those other things where they picked holes and made jokes about movies, it would not have surprised me. And she would have probably torn Joan Severance up with puns. Yeah. Love the hair.
Absolutely. Over the years, it's No Holds Barred has gone on to become a cult classic. Wrestling fans, obviously, look, a lot of people love it, like me. Of course, hey, look, you brought it up earlier, maybe a very valid point. It's because we're still looking at it from that, the prism of those eyes that when we originally watched it. Look, the negative side is that, they promoted the heck out of this movie, WWF did. It did underperform, by the way, at the box office, and led a lot of discussions about the crossover appeal to wrestling stars and mainstream center. Luckily, I think we've overcome that. What do you think?
Long term, yeah. Long term, they changed the market because they stopped making wrestling movies stupid as shit. They started making wrestling movies where stars had great chances and looked good and made a budget. And there wasn't
look, again, we tell everybody all the time, man. Look, this is one of those things. But before we get out of here, Myron, look, you had the advantage of first time watching it. You'd never seen it before. What's your final verdict? Your final take on the movie as a whole?
It was dookie. I mean, it was campy. I should have watched it. Not as critically. I should have expected less. I should have not looked at it as 2025 Myron, because 2025 Myron can be a cynical bastard. I should have looked at it as 1988 Myron. 1988 Myron, who was young and innocent and would have thought Dookie was hilarious.
Listen, I thought it would have been right up your alley, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but I've just become such a callous, mean old man.
Casting, like if you were to do it today, let me ask you a dumb question.
Oh,
Now look, it'd be a better version, we all assume. The only other question I ask you, if this movie's made today, I think Rock's too big. I know a lot of people sending questions like, hey, could you remake this with The Rock? Rock's probably too big. What's the wrestler that, if this movie's made today? You think?
John Cena. Can't make it with anybody but John.
I don't know, man. He might be too big for this movie now.
No, you got to have John Cena. You have to have John Cena. Casting the rest of it, though, God, it's going to take me a while to cast the rest of it, but it has to be John Cena for the lead.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you've got who would you cast in the lead role of this movie with me today? Who would be the love interest? Any other casting ideas? Send those all in, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Or if you are a member on our Patreon page, patreon.com/tappedoutpod, you can always, send messages in there as well directly from your account. You can send it. I do my best to respond to all of them as much as possible. Patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Like I said, you get the show early. You get the show, get all the bonus content. You get the show notes, all that stuff we've talked about in all the past. But of course, we understand, look, lots of people are watching right here on YouTube. Tappedoutpod.com is our YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate it. Hey, look, we hope you enjoy just trying some new things, trying to mix it up a little bit. We always encourage, send your thoughts, send your opinions, be constructive, as we always like to say. Tappedoutpod@gmail.com, what your thoughts are, what you like, what you don't like, things we can change, all that kind of good stuff. And, hey, we're always trying to do better content, different content. And but before I get out of here, I want to make a special shout out to sponsor JamieMartinandCompany.com, jmartinandcompany.com for all your pressure washing needs, driveways, homes, roofs. They do all that stuff, gutters, all that stuff, residential business. They do all of it for you. So absolutely check them out, jmartinandcompany.com.
Y'all going to have to send him some more work because Friday night he got so free he got to come out to a wrestling show. I hadn't seen him at a wrestling show in forever. He's been so busy. So Jamie, you bought all my Cruel Spice. I don't know why you had to do that, but that's something personal between me and him, not as a sponsorship.
That's correct. Well, man, I hope everybody enjoyed the new little twist on the show, whatever, and we'll see how everything works out going forward. This might be a monthly thing. We will see. Well, man, anything else before we get out of here, buddy?
Good. I love you, folks. I need you. I can't wait to find out where we're going this weekend.
Well, what's the old saying, man?
From Ray.
If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
Time to tap out.